Whew, that was a long channeled message. If you didn't get a chance to check out the DM channeled message that I just did, dude, go for it if you feel called to. It's one of the longer ones that I've done. I honestly did not expect it to go on that long. In any case, it's funny sometimes, even when you get a clear channel and it's all coming through your mind, sometimes that's the moment when other things come into. I think a lot of readers and channelers and intuitives, it'd be great if we started talking more about the unique challenges and interesting bits that have to do with channeling. Like, what do you do when you're in the middle of a great channeling and you've got a clear channel, and then you get like two or three other thoughts about, oh, I should talk about that, or I should talk about this. Or if you get, DMs, DS, other people coming in saying, talk about this, talk about this. Like, how do you focus enough to stay on track with that one thread of a message, especially if you get multiple messages coming in, some of which may be tangled in with your own stuff in your own life, and some that might have nothing to do with it. In any case, it's a divine nugget that I've been meaning to talk about. It was, well, there's a couple, but it was one of those. Do I talk about this first, or do I do the channeling? I'm glad that I did it the way that I've done it, though. It's funny. A message just came through, and for those of you that some of you this is really going to resonate for, and others you're not quite there yet. So if it doesn't feel like a thing, then it ain't no thing. If it does feel like a thing, then check this out. Is if you go and listen to a lot of like DM channeled messages, a lot of them really highlight something that I've been learning a lot about in this last couple of years, which is when we hide in other people's trauma, usually to avoid looking at our own and focusing on it. And I was thinking about how, well, I was thinking about what the twin flame journey is, first of all. And then secondarily, I was thinking about how I see so many twin flames, and I've done it myself too. Like, I'm not talking about this from a place of like, I've never done this and it's so silly that you've done it. No, I've done it. I still do it in some ways, but where we hide in the trauma of our twin flame journey. Like, I really need them. I really want them. I want to have a relationship with them, or I feel like my life's not complete without them, or we'll be observing what they're doing, especially if they're with karmic people or in a karmic loop about learning something. Like with my DM, I know a lot of his karmics are not actually people; they just manifest as people. It's more about self doubt, self love, shame, things like that. But I really didn't even see that for a long time until I really challenged myself to stop hiding in his trauma. And he would do the same with me. As an example, is like, I would ask for various things, like, can we go out on dates? Can we be more loving? Can we have more fun? Can we commit fully, and not for power, but for real joy, for the real like sacredness of it? And most of the time his answer would be no, because an ex hurt him when he did that, when he was doing it genuinely, or when they asked him to do it, or they did that and he saw a sibling go through that, or a parent go through that, or some movie that like corroborated that reality for him. And that was his way of hiding in my trauma, because it really became a thing for me that I didn't want to ever be like his exes, even if it was a tiny way and it was a good thing or anything. I didn't want to be associated with that because, like, in his vibration, he was so hurt by that. And it became a way that he hid in my traumas and then I hid in his traumas, to where he didn't have to be accountable, he didn't have to be different because somebody hurt him that way. And he wasn't going to do it again. And in his mind, that was a perfectly logical reason. A lot of people, it is. A lot of us, we get hurt by one person, just one. And then we armor ourselves and we say, oh no, when I did that, I got hurt. So that is a wrong thing to do. When really, it was probably just the wrong person. or the wrong timing, or we weren't really believing everything that we were doing, and so it came out as like a waffly vibration, and we got hurt in that because we did a thing without believing we deserved it, or we were fearing in our heads that we'd be rejected, and so instead of imagining the best and getting the best, we imagined rejection, and that's what we got, you know. um, so it's not unusual for people to do that. I've done it. I'm sure that you've done it. And when we get to that space to where we're constantly armoring ourselves to never be lied to again, to never be stolen from or cheated on, or to be caught with our hands in red paint kind of thing, that we, I don't know, we manifest our own unhappiness through that. But it's easy to think that that's the way to make sure either that you'll never get hurt again. I think it's more that I wanted to say that you'll always be happy, but most people that are guarding themselves from never getting hurt again are, they don't usually have a conscious goal of wanting to be happy. That's really what they want. They want to be able to live with ease and freedom and know that when they give their hearts that it'll be well received and go well, and it'll always be a pleasant surprise and stuff like that. But we don't. We get armored and go, no, that person hurt me, so I'm never going to give that part of myself again to somebody else, even if they deserve it, even if they've never done anything to me, because that person hurt me, because I didn't get it in that time. And then we hide who we are. We don't share the feelings we want to share because somebody rejected us before, or a few people, or even many people rejected us before. We deny who we really are and who we really want to be and how we really want to live our lives because either we got rejected or hurt, or we know of somebody who did, or, the cycle goes on and on. And that becomes a loop, which I've been noticing, like there are loops within the spiral cycles, and it's a lot of that Venn diagram kind of energy, these loops that play into each other, and they almost, like, for some of us, they make a chain that we just keep doing these loops, and I told someone the other day, it's like double dutch. If you go into if you're playing double dutch and you know a song, you know how long it is, you know the words, and everybody there knows it. Like, you can go in and jump. You know when to start. You know when to get in. You know how long the song's gonna be. You know when to jump out before the song is completely over. That a lot of people are just, they're like trying to do double dutch with no song. They're like jumping in, and it takes a minute. Like, when do I get in? You got to find timing in your own head. You got to find that rhythm in your own head. You got to figure out what cadence the two people are doing the ropes at. And then once you're in there and you're doing it, you're basically just going until you're exhausted and the ropes get tangled around your feet, which either you fall, or it's just not as much fun. And those loops we get caught in. And a lot of times those loops are based on, they're not, like, they're based on our trauma, but it's really just hiding in somebody else's trauma. And I think, like, a lot of, especially before we get information and we get enough affirmation and confirmation that we're not crazy crazy, that it's easy to understand that we might keep focusing and observing the traumas that are being, the loops that are being replayed by our twin flames, or by maybe like soulmate friends that are meant to be in our tribe, that are going through weird moments and things like that, or that our parents are going through, that other people are going through. And when we stop and do that, like, it's part of, see, there's so many divine nuggets that I want to I want to pull out and do, and it feels like there's a lot of messages that are gonna come through in the next few weeks that are gonna be really beautiful. Right now, they're still kind of gelling in my head, so if I pause and go, it's usually because I'm getting another download or another thought about another thing, and I'm trying to keep focused on this one. Thanks, Mercury retrograde energy. It's in Gemini too, so lots of thoughts, lots of truths, lots of downloads. I'm sure many of you are feeling them. In any case, the main picture in my head is like when we're in this state where we're not doing stuff for us because we're focused on what other people are doing, which is kind of managing. I feel like there's a better word for it, but right now that's been a kind of a key word that's been popping up in the collective. It's about control. And we've re-entered, we've been in for a little bit, this you'll see some readers use cards that say release control. And others it'll say like release your exes or get help from your friends or it's safe to love. And a lot of those, especially when they come out together, it's about looking at how you are running from the things that, not that you necessarily, well, I mean, sometimes it's things you need to do, like self-care stuff, but a lot of times once you get the self-care stuff down, then it's about why aren't you pursuing the things that put smiles on your face and on your heart? And most people will say, because my DM or my DF isn't with me, or because I'm focused on what they're doing, or they hurt me in this way, or a friend hurt me in this way, or a parent is not behaving in a way that I like, or even maybe you fall back on some sort of thing that you've healed from a karmic cycle in your head, or an old addiction, or an old a bad thinking, stinking thinking process, and then you beat up on yourself and you get focused on how output I fell back into it, so I must not be that good, I can't get it, I'll quit. So like a lot of people do with diets is one of my favorite things because I mean I did go through my period of trying to, like, I don't know, I've always been a little leery of like dietary supplements and things like that, because for one thing, well, okay, so the thought in my head is it's not sustainable. Most people look at diets and go, I should go on a diet. And they think of it as like a temporary thing to lose weight and to get to this goal weight. But then they have no plan for what's going to happen after that. Like, so you diet for a week or 3 months or a year or 3 years, and then you get to your goal weight. Then what? Are you just going to go back to eating the way that you were eating before in the ways that put that weight on you? Are you going to go back to not exercising in the ways that you learned how to do so you could lose the weight? Are you going to go back to the same thinking processes that led you to like feeling like that was more delicious than having an actually nutritious diet in your life? I mean, there's no judgment if you do. It's simply that when it comes to dieting, it shouldn't be dieting. It should be, what is my lifestyle? Like, what is my diet in terms of my lifestyle? When you want to lose weight, look at it in the long run, not just in the moment. You want to have a hot girl summer for real? Like, don't just sit there and think, okay, how can I lose weight enough to get into my bikini and feel like I look good, and then I won't worry about it anymore once the holidays come around and there's food. We'll just do it later. No, like, look at it. How could you have a holiday meal? When we're talking like Thanksgiving, Christmas, Samhain, like harvest time, all these extra stuff coming in. How can you feel delicious about you and not eating a whole lot and bringing in dishes that maybe change up the way that people think about the stuff that they can have? And how can you change your diet so that, like, yeah, I've never seen somebody successfully change their diet for the better in the easy ways that make it so you don't have to remember, oh, you're on a diet, because you changed your whole eating way. I've never seen somebody successfully do that from a place of like, well, I have to, because food is for fuel for the body. It's not meant for taste, and I have to be a certain weight. And you know what I mean? Like that sort of like judgmental thinking on yourself. I've never seen somebody be successful with a diet, whether temporary or for lifestyle, thinking of it that way. Though what I have experienced, both for me personally and for people I've worked with, for people that I learned from, is that when you find a way to really enjoy what you're doing, you know what I mean? Like, one of my favorites is, I mean, I have two boys, and they're not, they have a better outlook about eating than I did growing up because I wanted them to. But they're still, they were both rather picky. And my DM, their dad, has been very picky. He's more of a meat and potatoes and corn kind of guy, like, salads are a no, or at least he was. I kind of laugh that he's grown in many of those ways, but they did not start out wanting to eat their vegetables and wanting to eat healthy foods. They wanted to eat junk food like pretty much everybody else did, make it quick and easy and stuff like that. And I feel really good that I've been able to help them get to a place to where, like, how can we make a salad taste like the most fantastic thing for you? And I'm not opposed to starting out in more of an unhealthy place if it gets us to a healthy place. Like, I mean, for me with salads, I kind of laugh because I'm a Capricorn. Like, never been opposed to salads, but I did have the thing in my head about oh, lettuce is gross and this and that. You know what I found? It's because it was iceberg lettuce, which is very low value nutritious wise. It doesn't, I mean, other than hydration, it doesn't have a whole lot in it. It doesn't even give you a lot of fiber content. And it doesn't taste bad, but it doesn't really taste great either. You know what I found? Romaine lettuce is freaking bomb, you know, and there's some other lettuces out there that are really good. They're rich in nutrients, they taste better. It's nice to be able to get them fresh. They're easy to grow if you want to grow them. And like, I mean, like I fell in love with romaine lettuce and like, but when I started out getting into it, it was iceberg lettuce and I threw like a ton of cheese and meat and stuff in it because I wasn't there yet, but I wanted to get there. And I helped do that with my boys too. It's like, you know what? I get it. Like this, I mean, this first thing you're going to try, like who just wants to eat a bowl of leafy greens. Here's the funny thing, I do. Like I love you throwing some arugula, some romaine lettuce. I like to get a little bit of like raspberry vinaigrette. Maybe throw in just a little bit of kale because kale's kind of a weird taste on it. And then getting like rainbow chard, and my favorite is dandelion greens, like the real big ones that are pesticide free. They have just they have an interesting spice to them, and it's not my first preference, but nasturtium leaves are really good too, and they have a little spice to them as well. But I actually will. It's great because it beguiles my mom too. Is I will actually eat a bowl of just like leafy greens like that. No cheese, no chicken, no nothing. Now, if I had been in a place when I started to where I had to meet this perfect goal of being able to do that at first, I never would have gotten to this place. And I was determined. I'm weird like that. That I do not like to do things just because somebody said it was good for me to do. I well, you know what's funny? I don't like doing it, but I also have like a natural resistance to doing it. There are things that like my DM would have wanted me to do in the past that I wanted to do too, but like I had this rebellious nature of like just because you asked me to do it, I don't want to do it now, or I can't do it, or I'm resistant to it. I'm not like that so much anymore, but it is still there. And you know, it's similar to anything else. Like I don't like to do things just because somebody else said it was healthier or better or things like that. I don't like to just follow the crowd. I do like to take in consideration of the collective and the crowd, but for me, I like to find my own way to do it, and typically the most effective way, like I said, not just for me, but what I've seen for other people, is to find a way to want to do it for joyful reasons. You know, take personal hygiene. Most people get into like having, you know, they'll wear makeup or they'll shower every day or they'll do all this stuff because they're worried about what other people will think or experience around them. Like I might smell, I might look funny, um, you know, things like that. Or we get into germ phobia, which is, I mean, hey, humans have survived a lot longer because we learned about germs and how to be sanitary. So I'm not knocking that, but sometimes we can overdo it. Kind of like Howie Mandel, right? You get into the real serious germ phobias and things like that. But then what sucks is like when you base the reason that you do those self-care things on a concern for what other people will think, it's not sustainable, you know. Or if you're doing it based on, you know, your parents were really super strict with you or they made some sort of big deal if you didn't do it, and that's the reason that you're doing it, it's not, you're not getting the same energy. And even if it's sustainable enough that you do it all the time, like you constantly keep things clean because your grandma or your mom or somebody was really really big about you having to keep things clean, or you do it because you didn't want to be, you don't want to be that stinky kid that you knew in school. Like when you're doing it for icky reasons, then when you do it, it feels icky, and it doesn't contribute to things very well. So, like the example of like salads and then even personal hygiene, if you can find a way to do it because you delight in it, because you want to do it, because you enjoy how you feel when you do it, that's so much different of a vibration. And I think that's really where, when I'm talking about like hiding in other people's traumas, with emphasis on our twin flames, that's what I mean. Is like if you're in a situation where you have separation to any degree, whether it's been years and years and you haven't talked at all, whether you've been in mild contact the whole time, whether it's only been a few months or even a day, like your your challenge is to look at how are you hiding in their trauma, Because if your twin flame is in any sort of karmic, whether that's a work karmic, stinking thinking loops, actual people, usually it's some combination of all of them. If you're spending all of your time observing what they're doing, or a lot of your time observing what they're doing, think about how much stuff that you could be doing that you know that you need to take care of, or that that you want to do. See, that's where the pivot is like, it's difficult to go, okay, yeah, yeah, all right, wickedly divine feminine, I see it. There's a lot of stuff I could be working on. I could be working on my business. I could be working on fixing things. I should, but I don't feel it. I want to or I don't. I feel compelled to focus on my twin flames journey and observing them. It feels like that's attached to my happiness. I can't get over to where I can feel good about it. See, that's where the pivot is. Look at the things that you're shoulding all over yourself about. I should do that. I should do this, and change it. Pivot it. Instead of I should do that, find a way to make it I want to do that. And it just starts in your mind. Once you get to that place to where you really, like, I mean, sometimes it depends on your life and who you are and how you are and how long you've been stuck at the loops. But the more you start to focus on, I want to do that, I want to observe myself doing that, I want to feel good when I do these things, then you start doing them for you, and then they feel good. And then on top of that, well, your twin flame's going to see you doing them, and there's probably going to be so much of them that feels like you're just doing it for them or to beguile them and whatnot. And you get to know that, yes, while you may be doing stuff that they like, that you're doing it for you, and that you found a new, fun, magical way to make it a fun thing for you that you enjoy about you. And then once you get to that place, you can get beyond the what should I be doing, and you can get to the place of what do I want to be doing? Do I want my own business? Do I want to go and volunteer and learn things through the volunteering in different aspects? Do I want to travel? Do I want to, like what do you want to do? And here's the real key thing. If you've never been able to sit down and say, this is my 1 year goals, my 5 year goals, my 10 year goals, my 20 year goals, yeah, go all the way to 20 years. If you're not able to sit there and say, you know what, in at least one, in all of these categories, that you have at least one thing that's a bigger rewarding thing that you want to do, no matter whether you're with somebody, whether you're with your twin flame or not, whether you have a soulmate or not, whether you have like friends or not, whether anybody ever sees who you are, anything, things that you are going to do for you that motivate you, then you are likely hiding in other people's trauma, and hiding in your own as well. But really stop and look at it. What could you be doing with this time that would bring you fulfillment, that would bring you self love, that would make you feel great about who you are? And then remember, the really great magic is that it's not just our twin flames that reflect us when we heal, or even when we don't heal. Like, everybody around us does that. And especially, as you start to go more on your journey and you get up on higher tiers of the spiral cycles, you might even start to notice that you can tell when other people are going to respond in like that, when they're not ready, when they're not there with you, and that you're in a different place, that and you can still keep going. Because a lot of times we do it to each other. We kind of drag each other back into lower vibrations and old loops. It's more subconscious. We want to be able to heal that stuff. And so spirit lines us up with people that we clash and have contrast with, so that we can really process and get out the feelings and the things that we are hiding from ourselves from. But the great thing is that the more you focus on what do you want for you, that you would want, no matter what your circumstances are, no matter where you live, no matter who you're with, or if you're with anybody, inside, outside relationships, that something that's so consistently you, that you do, like, that you do for you, but it doesn't mean it has to exclude anybody. Like, it should work with anybody who's in your life that you want to have in your life, and things like that. Not because you cultivated it to, but simply because when you are when you decide to manifest longer term goals that are consistent for you as you, no matter what, and you leave a little bit of room, whether it's for your DM or your DF or somebody else, or something like that, that room is going to be there later. And then you are the one, like your breakfast, lunch, and dinner and dessert. And if somebody else comes along and wants to be your walks beside in that journey, that they're the whipped cream, cherry, and sprinkles on top. They're not any of the main courses. They're not even the dessert itself. They're that little extra bit of sweetness on there, and it makes it more sustainable. It makes you unshakable when things happen, which heals your insecurities. And I feel like everybody's journey has something to do with that, but definitely within the twin flame journey, we're supposed to get to that place where we have really strong roots in self love and self appreciation and self sustainability, especially because a lot of our twin flames are going to be the types that, they get sent out on missions of their own kind. They're not always conscious of it, but we got to, it's like if you were an armed forces spouse, or the spouse of a musician, or a traveling preacher, or high priestess, or whatever, which way you want to look at it. Like, you need to be able to be firm in who you are at all times, for you, not for the relationship, not for union. Like, you need to be in the place where you feel good for you, because that's how you get the benefits of it. Like, when you heal, everyone around you heals too. Your twin flame does. They're going to start choosing stuff for them, and as they choose stuff for them, it's not always going to align with that, like with the some sort of fairy tale version that, like, they're just going to come back to you and then you're going to, like, live happily ever after, house, white picket fence, and there'll never be anything else again. No, that's not. If that's the vision you got in your mind, I'm not knocking it, but you would probably do better to look for one of your soulmates rather than your twin flame, if that's what you're looking for. That's not a bad way to live, but it's just not common in terms of most twin flames, especially right now with so much healing needed in the world. So if you're looking at it from an emotionally healthy place, you're lining up with your twin flame, and people that, like friends and family that are on your twin flame journey. It's more than likely that when they really start to embrace self-love, there's going to be a lot of things that they're going to do that don't align with the harmony, with the union idea that you have in your head, that, like, they're always going to want to do what you do, or they're never going to do something that triggers you, or that you're always going to talk about everything and have, like, this perfect honest communication with each other. Heck, even with telepathy, that don't happen. you know like, this is a journey about growth and about self-love, and your twin flame is somebody who's constantly going to not challenge you, but the energy is, you love yourself, so they love themselves, and that feeds the energy. And so when they go, you know what, yeah, like, I really want to travel to, I don't know, I don't even know, like, Tahiti, or France or whatever, and I want to go by myself, and I want to go for 6 months, and I want to see the ancestral history, and I just want to enjoy it by myself. Are you going to be the type of person that gets freaked out because you're going to have 6 months of separation from them, and then you're going to spend that whole 6 months sitting there feeling insecure because they might meet somebody else, or they might decide that they aren't in love with you, or you might fall in love with somebody else, or, you know what I mean? Like, are you really going to be in the loop where that's all you're doing for 6 months? What if that's a part of their natural cycle? What if that's a part of your twin flames journey in this life, is that maybe, like, every 5 years they need 6 months to go off on their own and kind of do this questing, and part of it is learning about themselves, and the other part is healing and triggering other people along the way. Are you going to lose those 6 months of your life every 5 years because that brings them pleasure and joy, and it scares you? Or are you going to work on you, so that when those 6 months come up, whether they're noticeable enough to be timed and you can plan them out and everything, or they're random, or shorter or longer, or things like that? Do you want to be the kind of person that spends all your time sitting there feeling like how you're lacking, or you're a victim, or you don't get that because they have their traumas to heal from and you're hiding from it? Or are you going to spend those 6 months going, yeah, you know what? You know what, DM? You know what, DF? I'm really glad that you want to do something very interesting with your life. And I'm amazed that you want to do it for you. You know, and heck, even if it turns out later they wanted to take their best friend or something and didn't want to take you, what are you going to spend another however long in separation because you didn't get to be the first pick? You know, or if something does come along, uh, like, why spend all your time sitting there worrying about the hurt of it? If you got your, 1 year, 5 year, 10 year, 20 year goals, you got a compass, you got a map, you got stuff you can work on. There's never a point in time where, especially in twin flame journeys, there's never a point in time where you're just golden and you've worked through everything and you're not reflecting the stuff that your twin flame is doing, and that you're just like sitting there all pretty like, I'm ready. I ain't got nothing to work on. Why you taking forever? No, that doesn't happen. If they need to go on a journey, whether to be with karmics or to be on their own, or anything, it's very likely that either you do too or you could, and it could benefit you and them in beautiful ways. Like, try to find, not try, like, look for the empowerment in what you have and what you want. Especially as, if nothing else, the minute that you learn to see your own traumas and see other people's traumas, see how they're hiding in yours, and how, like as an example, like, my DM used to say that he couldn't tell me the truth about situations that really he knew he shouldn't have been getting into, where he was protecting people that were not up to any good. He would say that, he didn't tell me because I would be upset about it, and that, they were worried that I would tell. Now think about it. He was hiding in my trauma of like being a tattletale sort of thing, and in the trauma that, yeah, of course I would be upset. You're disrespecting me and you're doing things you should not be doing, and yeah, I would very likely tell you to do the right thing. But he was hiding in, like, and not on purpose, but he was hiding in my trauma of not wanting to be a snitch or wanting to be a person of strong integrity and loyalty and things like that. And oh, it worked for a long time. It worked for a long time because I didn't see it. And I tried really, really hard not to be the person that I felt like he was seeing me as, not to be the kind of person that would get upset about things, until I realized, you know what, screw that. Like, that stuff that you're doing, that was valid of me to be upset about. And it was not actually that it wasn't that I would take it a bad way. It's that you're doing things that most anybody would be upset about, especially with what we agreed to as were the lines and boundaries of monogamous relationships. Like, a lot of people would be like that, and it's fair that I would be upset. And what it really was that he didn't want to be accountable, and he still had some karmic lessons to work out with these people. He was still trying to get their, if he couldn't get their love, he was trying to get closure through them admitting what they did. I don't know that he even realizes yet that that's been what he's been doing. um, but like, those lessons needed to be learned. And I'm really, you know what, I'm really happy about the ways that I did react in each moment, that I learned each thing that I did, because now sitting in these moments, it's lighter. It's like, oh, that wasn't actually me. And because I learned to see where he was hiding in my traumas, that, because growing up, it was a lot of, you don't tell on people that are doing bad things, because people will see you as a rat or a tattletale. And then you get the mixed message of, you're supposed to speak up. Like, if you see someone bullying someone else, if you see somebody stealing, things like that. And then you get even more mixed messages, because some people are stealing to feed their families and they don't have a lot of other options, and other people are lazy, and other people have mental challenges, and other people are just doing it when they could do something better. So there's all sorts of weird mixed messages in there. But it definitely created a trauma for me that he was able to hide in, and then vice versa, I hid in that. And by spirit showing me how he was doing it, showed me how I was doing it too. My own end, I perpetuated a lot of delays, because my DM would he gives off this impression to a lot of people that he is a victim. They ain't got no time, gotta work, made this promise, can't change your mind, can't have do overs. This one person hurt me, so I'll never let him hurt him again. No, I can't do better, I can't play with my toys, I can't follow my dreams. And then also, I mean, thinking in that way, he would get to a place too where it scared me that maybe he might like drink himself to death or do something, like get road ragey or something like that and hurt himself. And I did not focus on a lot of my own stuff that I could have focused on and glowed up because I was worried that if I was not tending to him, if I was not managing him and making sure that the situation was set up for a net for him so he wouldn't do that, I spent a lot of that time hiding in that trauma rather than being faithful that he wouldn't do that stuff because spirit is there and not only will protect him and stop him but will show him. I didn't have the faith that, well, I did, but it was small. Like, I had very small faith in his ability to see himself and be resilient rather than giving up. Especially because he has settled in many ways. That's part of a lot of our big fights is like you're settling for shit, and but I also appreciate that because it emphasized for me the other people in my life growing up that settled for things. And I realized I don't want to be a person, like I don't want to be a person that's so rigid that I never like settle for a good situation, but I don't want to be the kind of person that just settles for mediocrity just because other people do. And I started to realize how I was hiding in his trauma of that. It was like, oh, he needs to be taken care of. That no matter how much of a macho man he pretends to be to everybody else, that I know that he's a big old teddy bear and he needs somebody to look after him and protect him. And that was just perpetuating that manifestation for both of us. And the minute that I realized that, I started to change around how I was approaching it. It didn't happen overnight. I wasn't just suddenly able to say, oh, he can do it, and then believe it, and then go there. No, it took a little while. But I got there before he actually even really started showing me that he could do that. And because that's the kind of person I wanted to be. And once I did that, I got into a place where I was working on stuff for me. That yes, it left room for him in it, but it was for me and I wanted to do it. And the more I focused on that, I stopped putting so much focus onto the situation that he was in and the old loops of, oh, can he do it? I don't know if he can do it. He might need help. He might need this message. He might need these things. And when I stopped doing that, when I stopped managing it, even just with my focus, that's when he started to show me what I already by then believed was true. And it's continued to work that way, and not just with him, with other people too. What I believe is true is true. What you believe is true is true. And the more we focus on what we believe is true, the more it grows, whether that's a bad situation, a good situation, etc. So once you start to notice, Spirit will probably show you first and foremost through the people closest to you, both in your heart and in a literal way, likely your twin flame, how they're hiding in your trauma. And then once you work on feeling consistent about who you are or just loving those things, like I find it absolutely delightful now that anybody would decide not to tell me something they're doing that is inappropriate for them to be doing because I might tell. Like for me, it used to be a trauma of like, oh, because they think I'm a bad person or disloyal or snitch and they don't trust me. Now it's like, actually look at it, I'm so trustworthy and they see me as, in fact, I would qualify far more light than I actually am, that they, when they do something that they're not supposed to do, that they would really justify trying to keep it from me, which is hard enough as it is, not just in the psychic sense. I'm very, very observant, and to see that they went through such great lengths and efforts to make sure I didn't know, so that they didn't get caught doing a thing that they shouldn't be doing, where they know they would be faced with me going, is that really a good thing to be doing? you know, is that getting you anywhere? How's that working for you? Do you feel good about the thing that you're doing? And if you were a real friend to so and so, you would be not treating them like this. Or if you really loved so and so, you would be consistent in your words and actions. Or if you were really happy doing the thing that you're doing, it would show. Or if you were really just afraid that I would I would ask you to be accountable, then that says a lot more about what you were doing than anything I would have thought or done. And that's just really, I don't know, it's really funny to me now. But that's what I mean about when you do your shadow work. Then people cannot hide in your trauma. They cannot trigger you and fuck with you so that you're not working on you and doing your own beautiful work. And when you notice that and you stop hiding in their trauma, then they can do their own work and they can reflect what you're doing. And by the time that you get union or friendship or the job or the business or the thing, you don't really even need what you had before. And you can look back and see how much juicier it is to enjoy all the things that you wanted and thought you couldn't have or thought you didn't have in a space of not needing them, and not needing them in the sense of I don't need nobody, nobody's ever going to do for me, or I'm never going to do this again. No, from a space of like, I enjoy giving this stuff to myself, and if you want to bring it, you want to give those things to me, be that person for me, that might be fun. Let's try that. Because I always know I can go to a base of enjoyably fulfilling things for myself. Like, that's really, really great for me. And so if you want to play in that role for a little while, that's fine. You do it for as long as you feel like is good for you. And then you can look back and see the difference between where you were when you thought that you needed those affirmations, you needed those signs, those confirmations, those words, those connections. When you're in a place that you don't need them anymore, everything is a bonus. And then you're not hurting yourself on expectations as much. You're not manifesting waffly vibrations. You're not even trying to control things. You're enjoying them moment to moment using the compass of your own work, of doing the shadow work, of listening to bids like these and getting out of hiding in other people's traumas. So that's your mission today, should you choose to accept it. Look around. Sometimes it helps to first look and see how other people are hiding in your traumas, but you got to know what your traumas are. What are the stories that you tell yourself? Did you did you grow up and feel like you grew up in a world of injustice? Did you grow up in a lot of codependency? Did you grow up with, maybe you were told that you didn't have much talent, or you were lazy, or you were a tattletale or a know-it-all, or that you were a screw up, or maybe you were in a situation, like really, really bad situations. Maybe when you were a kid you got thrown into like sex trafficking, or your parents were in deep into drugs, or whatever the story is that you have in there. Look around and see how other people are either avoiding accountability to doing something with you by hiding in those traumas. Maybe they say that you're never there and you're actually there quite a lot, but you're not very social with them. You see how the two perspectives can happen. And then you can start to see that actually, like, the reason that they might be saying the thing that they're saying, it's triggering you on your trauma and it's enabling them to hide in it. But once you are not bothered by it so much anymore, you can actually see that them doing it was usually not an intention to actually go like, I'm going to poke at this person's trauma so they don't see mine. No, it was more like they were unconsciously playing out a loop in their own minds. So I just heard someone cheer. That they were playing out unconscious loops in their own minds. And as they were doing that, they spoke them to you because they projected that you were doing something that was similar to someone who hurt them in the past. And because you had your own particular trauma with it, you then got triggered and spun out, and the two of you remanifested the loop, right? When you can get to the place where you can recognize, most of the time, the way that other people treat you, when it has just such very little things to do with actual you, unless they get to a point where they're conscious enough to be able to make those decisions consciously. And I don't know. See, I feel like this topic could go on and on and on, but look around. Look around for the stories that you were told about yourself or that you believed about yourself, the core messaging that you got growing up and as a teen and young adult, and in your midlife, things like that, and look at how you've controlled yourself or prevented yourself from doing things that you really, really want to. Even if you have total justification for it, just look at it. Like, how much different might your life be if you were genuinely no longer bothered by that stuff, if you were free from all the stories of the past that held you back, if there was no way for anybody to hide in your trauma because you've healed your traumas. So you could see people coming 100 yards away. They're going to try to hide in my old trauma. And you just let them do their thing. You don't have to control it. You don't have to armor yourself. You just know. And then those people end up having to actually look at their own behaviors because you're not feeding it, and you're not controlling it, and you're not disowning them as a human or friend or lover or twin flame or whatever because they fell into one of their loops. You just see them as human and you appreciate them, and you know they're going to appreciate you later for not falling into that spin with them, that loop with them. I don't know. That's your mission. Take a look at that. Everybody in your life. Who's hiding in your trauma? What is your trauma? And then once you can recognize that, look around and see, how are you hiding in other people's traumas? How are you, clearly unconsciously, taking advantage of other people's mindsets or situations or codependence or proclivities to make you feel like you've got something covered? Like, you might be with somebody who's codependent, or you may have in the past, and if they were codependent, they probably were also anxiously attached and tried to like manage every little thing, and you felt wanted, or you felt protected, or you felt like they genuinely cared about you. I'm not saying that they didn't, but they probably spent so much time over managing, like micromanaging everything, that you didn't have a lot of time to stop and look at what are you doing, you know? And if that's you, that you've had someone be that way with you, then if you take that element out of your life, if you don't have that friend that you can pay attention to what's going wrong in their life and how can you help them do it, or if you don't have that parent who's like constantly pulling you back into low vibe stuff, if you're not constantly observing your twin flame journey, what are the things that come up? Like, if you remove all the elements of all the things that are making you not feel happy right now, or feel like people, like there's things that you have to take care of, if you took all of those out of there, what would you be doing? What would you be doing? If you don't, if the answer is I don't know, or you would only have a few things that you'd do, then think about that. Why wouldn't you be doing more? Why wouldn't you be having fun? Why wouldn't you be going out? Why wouldn't you have fun time with your friends? Why wouldn't you be pursuing your dreams? Well, I'm going to leave this here. I'm kind of laughing. I don't know what sort of game thing is happening over there, but people are applauding and say, applauds for me. So I hope you enjoyed this divine nugget. It's definitely fitting in some of the Neptunian energy, so it might be a little more abstract, but I appreciate your feedback and your comments, and I'll see you in the next video.